Welcome,
Yes,
welcome, welcome.
yes. Welcome to another edition of Black Westchester Presents the People Before Politics radio show, episode 394. We are 6 episodes away from the 400th show. And we're coming on our 10-year anniversary. Now, today's show is going to be crazy. We got a guest coming on, going to talk about a topic. We will be dressing later on in the show the Anti-Semitic Awareness Act that expands the definition of anti-Semitism, where if the claims that Jewish people are responsible for the execution of Jesus has been long regarded as an anti-Semitic trope and even rejected by some historians and theologians and Pope Benedict in 2011. But the controversial bill would literally deem the Bible anti-Semitic and illegal. We will be definitely getting into that later on in the show. So a couple other topics, but before we do that, I want to shout out, you see I got the Knicks hat on. My New York Knicks made it out to the Eastern Conference semifinals for the second year in a row. They will be facing the Indiana Pacers. 914 is represented because we have Austin High School graduate Obi Toppin playing for the Indiana Pacers. So 914 will be represented. And today, the Cleveland Cavaliers just won to avoid being swept for a second year in a row, and that was led by Elmsford, Donovan Mitchell, who helped the Cleveland Cavaliers make it to the Eastern Conference semifinals. So 914 is definitely representing in the NBA playoffs. So shout to all of them. And of course, I'm a New York Knicks head, so shout to my New York Knicks. But enough of that, though.
Yeah,
I had to get that out. I had to get that out there.
I want to, first of all, give a shout out to Yolanda Jones and the Live Church for hosting that beautiful, beautiful event yesterday where we talked about Black mental health and mental health awareness. And man, I wish I would have recorded it because it was great information. And thank you to Pastor Damon Mack for hosting that beautiful event. Mental health, we need to talk about it more in the Black community. We need to normalize therapy. As I said in my lecture, when you get to know successful people, really successful people, the first 3 people they will introduce you to is their lawyer, their accountant, and their therapist. So we have to normalize that. Even in the process of being successful, we have to normalize that because trauma comes in all forms. And I guarantee everybody that's watching here that we are still walking around with trauma from 10, 15 years ago because we haven't learned techniques to release the trauma.
And that's a great topic. One shout to Pastor Damon Mack and the Live Church. They're doing great things. They're on South 6th Avenue, in the Fuller's Old Church, diagonally across from the Dole Center. Definitely check them out. They're doing great things. I went there to at an event that it's the sister from the Joanne Dunn did with the youth shelter of Westchester. That's the first time I went there, and I was very pleased with what's going on over there. They're doing great things. So shout to them. And secondly, your topic is so important because one of the things we do not deal with is mental health in the hood, in the Black communities. And we don't have resources. More importantly, we don't have the resources for them to unpack. And in cities like Mount Vernon, what you see some of the stuff going on with the youth is because of a place for them to safely unpack. Like the situation where the cheerleaders stabbed the other cheerleader to death, this was something that was ongoing. But before that, there was a drive-by shooting at the school. They never unpacked that. Then there was another incident in the school. They never unpacked that. Then this incident happened. They never unpacked that. And they're walking around with all of this stuff without a way to unpack it. And then usually it comes out in some form of violence or negativity. And what was crazy is one of the girls that got stabbed, her mother was talking at a school board meeting of how her cousin or brother or something was stabbed to death in Mount Vernon High School when she was 17. And when she was talking about this today, at that time, it was clear she hadn't unpacked that trauma from then. And then her daughter, who was 16 now, was in a major stabbing incident, who's just lost her best friend who was stabbed to death. This is generational trauma. Like, I mean,
right.
we're not giving them, that's one of the things for our youth. We have to give them a place to unpack. But our adults, the problem is our adults are mentally unhealthy as well. And and our politicians, some of them are mentally, our leaders, some of them got trauma and they're mentally unhealthy as well. So the kids don't even have a good example of what good mental health looks like sometimes. Like,
exactly. And let me tell you, always got to talk about the sin of the day, right? So I went to the mental health awareness, smelling nice and good, man, because I had my Afnan Highness Blue.
We have to get an endorsement from these people. We have to get an endorsement or something.
Afnan Highness Blue. Now this is a great blue scent, and you're going to get, fellas, ladies, listen, buy it for your man. All right, you're going to get, I don't know, you might not want him to get compliments from other women, but it's a great blue scent. Top notes is ambergris, fresh, spicy, and nutmeg. Middle notes is lavender, patchouli, black currant, and base notes is amber, oak moss, and musk. This is a great scent. The link is going to be in the description. We're gonna post the link. We're gonna post the link up. This is one of the more expensive ones when I talk about balling with a budget, but it's definitely worth it. And you're gonna smell important. And like I say, your scent does not have a price tag. You got cats out here spending $400, $500, $600 for a little bottle of cologne, but when they can really smell good and they don't have to spend the price. So this is what we teach young men that's trying to get into the business world. And you can smell good, but you don't have to spend all that money. Don't get fooled. And this scent will last on you about 10 hours. About 10 hours. So this is good for $70. All right. So let's get into.
Before we get into that, I want to give you props, since we've been on the air last time, for going to Cynthia's school with the kids, and you talking about professional, teaching them how to tie ties, and I think you donated several ties or whatever.
Yeah, we donated.
I think we talk about that for a second.
Yeah. So I went to Cynthia Turnquest school in Harlem. It was my second time. The first time I went, we talked about health and wellness, and I gave every kid in the group one of my books on health and wellness, the benefits of detox cleansing and eating clean. And me and my son went with me, and we made smoothies for them. And we talked about the importance of having more fruits and vegetables, in your diet and making it part of your lifestyle. So I went back and we donated the food pantry and the My Life mentoring program donated, I believe, 25 to 30 ties. And she did the whole program. They had the Harlem Giants, which is an organization of police officers. It's a community outreach group where they work one-on-one with the kids, which is beautiful, which we need in every Black community. We need a program like that, like what they have with the Harlem Giants, which is sponsored by the Giants, of course. And one of the assemblymen was there, and his name escapes me, but big shout out to you. Al, I can't remember his last name right now, but he was he donated $100,000 to the school for the program, which was remarkable. which was remarkable. And we taught the kids how.
Assemblyman Al Taylor.
Yes, Assemblyman Al Taylor. That's it. It was my first time meeting him. I think he's a brand new assemblyman. You know, he's a brand new assemblyman, and the work that what he's trying to do with these kids is remarkable also. And he donated $100,000 to the program, to the school. And we talked about the importance of having a tie and looking good and the difference between going to a job interview without a tie and a job interview with the tie. Yes. So big shout out to Assemblyman Taylor, and big shout out to Cynthia Turnquest Jones for keeping me involved with the young kids and giving me the opportunity every time to come down there and talk to these kids. And I put a video up, and you can see I have a rapport with these. When I walk in the room, man, it's like Brother Damon, and you know, and I sit down with the kids like we catching up on old times, and it's a beautiful thing. And big shout out to Cynthia.
So Assemblyman Al Taylor, he represents the 71st Assembly District in Upper Manhattan. His office is in Harlem. So I just want to, you know, so we have that.
Right.
And also shout to Cynthia for all the work that she does. And she also just did something. She's a school librarian too. She's a librarian, and she believes in she's an advocate for childhood literacy. And I just want to big her up. She's also the first, as we go to the 10-year anniversary coming up soon, and we're coming up on the 400th episode. She was the first co-host of People Before Politics, and she rocked with us for at least the first 100 or so shows. So, you know what I mean? So I want to definitely give her a shout out.
Absolutely. So let's get to the guests, man.
Yes. Are they here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm about to bring them in right now.
All right. So my brother Paul. Secondly, two things before I get started. Damon, this is Paul, who is setting up our first 40 under 40, Black Westchester's official 40 under 40 thing, and he's putting it all together. He's running. He's taking the leeway.
Brother, I thank you. And what we're going to do?
I'm allowed to talk about that. I don't know. I didn't know.
No, listen, man. Because you know, I was thinking about that when we talked before, and then when AJ coming on,
yes.
And thank you for taking it up.
It's
maybe
Hunger Games out there.
When we launch it, we can launch it at the 10-year anniversary, and another way to invite these people and recognize these people, you know, for these young people that are doing good work in our community. And that's what we
there'll be a big article on it, but we're starting the nomination process Juneteenth, and there'll be a form, and for everybody, all our viewers to put who they want to nominate, and then we'll have a nominating committee going over who are the people, and I just want to shout them out because his inspiration was Westchester Magazine does one, and out of the 40, very few, if maybe 3 or 4, if that many, were persons of color or even Black. So, you know, we're doing a Black Westchester one to celebrate 40 under 40 Black professionals in Westchester County. And I want to give you a big up. But we could talk about that later, but I just wanted to give you your props. You brought a guest on today. I want you to talk about who your guest is, why you brought them on, and introduce them.
She's environmental superstar. She's first team all Westchester for the environment, to be honest. You know, the stuff that's being done, advocacy, coalition building, you know, Dr. Courtney Williams, you know, a true scientist, you know, really doing research, if I'm wrong, into cancer research, and really having forward-thinking strategies of the community inequities that's being done. Because if you look at it, you know, it's really it's unfortunate that we have communities like, you know, the city of Peekskill or Irvington, New Jersey, municipalities that are bearing the burden of the social impact of waste incineration and the air quality impact that's being done in these communities. And you look at the census data, you know, it's not looking good in terms of, like, you know, what city of Peekskill represents, what Irvington represents, or Haverstraw, you know, in terms of, or regions of Florida represent. You know, it's the inequities. It's like these overall communities of color, feedback loops where you're losing economic power. And it's really unfortunate that we have these feedback loops and no one's really talking about them. To be
Right.
serious about how we're gonna, it's not fair. Like why am I throwing my trash out in New Rochelle and it's being burned in the air in Peekskill? It's not fair,
Right.
it's not right to be doing this. But I'm happy that leaders like Courtney's out here, founder of the Westchester Alliance for Sustainable Solutions, creating a countywide network of the environmental advisory committees and the community leaders to talk together about forward-thinking strategies to become environmental educators for people in county government. And that we're doing, it's a huge environmental justice issue happening nationally to a lot of communities, and we need to have that community power to educate people in government of like the way of thinking of how we got to really address it with a forward-thinking strategy. Because the contract is up, I think, in like 6 years, Dr. Williams, correct? So we can really set up a true agenda of really get things done. And really, the facility has not had it's for over 2 years now. It's had an expired air permit, Title V permit, a Title V port permit from the state, and it's crazy. Like the impact.
So
that's happening.
Let's start. What's the importance of an air permit? A lot of because I think a lot of people that's watching, they're like, "Well, the air permit, like why is it important to have an airport permit?"
All right, I guess at that point, Dr. Williams, thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Thank you, Mr. Woodson, for having me on. Yeah, so I live in Peekskill, and I can look out my window right now and see the trash incinerator that burns most of Westchester's garbage. It is the largest industrial air polluter in Westchester County. And it is here in Peekskill, which is a predominantly Black and brown city. And that is not a coincidence, because you'll find a lot of other polluting infrastructure in other Black and brown cities. And the air permit is important because the Environmental Protection Agency at the federal level has rules about how much air pollution a facility can produce and emit, put into the air. And the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, it's their job to like oversee having those permits. And as time goes on, the air quality standards, how much a facility can pollute, those get more and more strict, more stringent, meaning they can produce less pollution. And so we have a lot of air permits in Westchester County that are expired. So here, the trash incinerator, that permit expired in 2021. We also here in Peekskill have a BASF chemical plant. Their permit expired in 2017. Yonkers has the county wastewater treatment plant. That permit expired in 2019, which means things are not getting updated and these facilities are not being held to these more strict standards, which could potentially improve the health of the people that live around these kinds of facilities.
Wow.
This is stuff that people don't know. So you talked about the permits expiring. What's the importance of the permit? I'm sure I'm learning. I learn mostly from doing interviews and doing articles and from talking to people. I didn't know that there was a need for an air permit, and then that we had permits that have been expired for a certain period of time. Talk about that, the importance of what an air permit is, the importance of an air permit, and what's usually the process of, not letting it expire and getting it, extended or whatever.
Sure. So the importance of the permit is that it is when the government regulators get to look at what's being emitted and then set limits. So if they say, this is how much greenhouse gases you can emit, or more importantly for our health, this is how much benzene or particulate matter, the things that harm our health, they set those limits. And that is what the air permit says. It says how much you can pollute. And really, it's saying how many people can you hurt? How much air pollution that could impact someone's health can you put into the air for people to breathe? And so the permit I'm talking about is what's technically called a Title V air permit, which is for major air polluters. There's other lesser permits at a lot of other facilities in the county. But these are just the Title V, meaning the largest sources of air pollution need these kinds of permits. And so the process has usually been just rubber stamp them. Nobody speaks up. Nobody makes a fuss. The companies don't face any pushback. The state faces no scrutiny, and they approve them. And that's why WAS is trying to change that for this trash incinerator, because this thing is 40 years old. The average age an incinerator is retired is 24 years.
Really?
Really. If this incinerator finishes its contract with the county, it will be tied as the oldest incinerator in the country. Yeah. And so for 40 years, they've put it here in Peekskill. 2 generations of Peekskill residents have been breathing it. We've got high rates of asthma,
Wow.
COPD, cardiovascular problems, babies born at a low birth weight. And I'm saying the time is up. Like,
Right.
I am fighting that we should have a lot of scrutiny on this permit. And just, I think the state should not allow it to be renewed.
Right.
In the past few years, since the last renewal of the permit, New York State passed a new climate law, and it's a mouthful. I'll say what it is. It's the CLCPA, stands for Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. But the relevance here is that it set new standards for environmental justice communities like Peekskill, which, most of our environmental justice communities are Black and brown communities.
Exactly.
And they have all kinds of polluting infrastructure there. And so the law said we need to put additional scrutiny on permits in these kinds of communities to try and address this historical environmental racism. And I think part of what has been holding up any process for this permit of the trash incinerator is the fact that this new law is in place and like what's going to happen with it. So WAS is pushing really hard for New York State to do their due diligence and a lot of scrutiny. And honestly, I think if the state, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, really acts in the spirit of this law, they would deny the permit. And without an air permit, this facility would not be able to operate. And Westchester County would have to do something else with its garbage. And Peekskill would get a taste of environmental justice and cleaner air after 40 years.
So my main question is, under what leadership does this fall under? Like, who is this something that the Peekskill city government has dropped the ball? The county of Westchester has dropped the ball. The governor has dropped the ball. Who has dropped the ball on the not renewing of these permits? And let's start there.
So there are permits all across New York State that are expired. There's all permits here in Westchester that are expired. And the Department of Environmental Conservation, which does what it's told by the governor, whoever the governor is at the time, it's Kathy Hochul now. They do as they're told in terms of a lot of these renewals. And what they keep telling us is that they're understaffed and they don't have enough staff. And these permits are falling through the cracks, and they're just letting these companies continue to operate on old permits. And really, as the laws for air quality get more stringent, that means these companies get to keep polluting at historic levels instead of in keeping with current standards. So really, this is Governor Hochul not renewing these permits. But locally, Westchester doesn't need to wait for New York State to deny a permit.
That's what I was going to say, because usually it's the old political rope-a-dope where they blame the state, where they could take some initiative on themselves, and it's just amounts to just lazy politics. What has the county legislators or the county exec, what have there been response? Has there, been, people go to the county legislators meetings and inform them, and what has been the response from the county?
So Paul and I have been working on this issue for a few years now, since like 2021. And when we first broached this, nobody wanted to talk about it. They were like, we have our waste problem solved. We're just burning all our garbage. It's going to Peekskill. That's all. We don't want to talk about this. It's not a problem. We don't need to think about it. And really, things have changed over the past like almost 3 years now. And I think the county really realizes that Peekskill has a public health emergency. 40 years ago, when they closed the dump in Croton and they decided to build this trash incinerator, yeah, maybe it looked like a good idea. But know better, do better. 40 years later, we realize that Peekskill and everybody else in the area, because the pollution doesn't know to stay in Peekskill, and so some white people in Croton and Cortland, they're also going to breathe it, and everybody in Westchester is going to breathe it. Realize now what that trash incinerator has been doing, pumping out awful stuff, lead, cadmium, benzenes, sulfur oxides, and that's just the stuff that we test for. There's a whole lot of other stuff that they pollute that they're not required to test for. That's the thing people need to keep in mind, that even with these permits, legally allowable air pollution still harms our health.
So,
go
ahead.
So legally allowable air pollution harms our health still. And especially in communities like Peekskill, folks don't have health insurance, access to health care that other richer, whiter communities do. And that is why, it's not right for the county to put this problem on Peekskill and similar other problems on other Black and brown communities. So what we want the county to do is, face facts. This thing's 40 years old. It is not going to survive forever. And if this air permit gets denied, or if the 40-year-old incinerator fails, we're going to be in a lot of trouble, because paying to get rid of your garbage on an emergency basis is extremely expensive. So, I tell people, if you don't care about health, if you don't care about the greenhouse gases and the planet, you'll care about your pocketbook and paying a premium for our garbage if this thing fails.
So you said, if I'm right, the 3 permits that you said that have expired, I think date back to 2017, I think was the first date that you said. And since 2017 on the county level, we've had several county legislators. Some have come and gone by then. But November 2017, George Latimer unseated Astorino and started his term January 2018. So has he been proactive in any way? Has there been a reach out to him that, maybe I can understand there might be some things that fall under the radar and you just don't know about? Is he aware of this stuff? Has the community brought aware? Has Peekskill brought this to him and to your county legislator?
Yeah, so our county legislator is Colin Smith. He's not really been active on this issue. He has voted, when things come up before the legislature, he's voted in favor of the things that are being done that could help address this. But County Executive Latimer has, become more aware and open to addressing this. So this year in the budget, we were successful in getting $90,000 in the budget for a waste, they call it a waste reduction study, basically to look at how much garbage we're producing and how could we reduce it in such a way that we won't have to rely on the incinerator anymore. And so that, they put out what's called a request for proposal, which is like looking for consultants to do that work.
RFP,
That's out right now. And it's been, I think the county has believed the greenwashing, like the kind of misleading information from the trash incinerator company for many years, thinking that this was the right solution. And so we've had to really do a lot of outreach and education to get the county and all the county staff to
Right.
learn about this issue for real. And
Right.
whenever the county government moves slowly, and I find it extremely frustrating. And what I remind our county executive and our other decision makers of is that every delay means another kid with asthma, means another elder in the emergency room, means another infant born at a low birth weight. So yeah, it might be that, building a new system to manage our waste is a lot of work and takes a lot of time. But from where I sit here in Peekskill, it's a health emergency, and we need to act like it is, and keep in the front of our minds that people are being hurt by our inaction. And, the county could do more. They really could. We have most of what we burn there. The county already has programs to do something else with it, recycle it, or if it's food scraps, we could compost it. All of these things that could be done and could be expanded. And so, we're working to really make sure that County Executive Latimer and the rest of the Board of Legislators know, like, we are watching. We are going to keep the pressure on until this environmental injustice is corrected. And I told the county executive, I said, I'm going to be working really hard to get this air permit denied. And if I am successful, which I probably won't be, but if WAS is successful in getting this air permit denied, you're going to be in a lot of trouble, because the county's going to have 2,200 tons of garbage a day and nowhere for it to go.
Well, whatever you need from Black Westchester, we are here, and we know how to make things happen and make noise.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Damon. I want to invite you, since you are well versed in this situation, if you would like to write an editorial about it, if you're up to that, we will definitely publish it and make sure it is seen. And the question I had, and again, sorry to interrupt you, Damon. The question I had was, am I clear that all the garbage in Westchester County goes to this place to be burned, or is there other places in Westchester County, or is this the main one? What is the?
There's only one incinerator in Westchester.
Wow.
And some of the other, it's all the garbage from it's called the Municipal Solid Waste District, comes here. So there are a few municipalities in the county that send their garbage elsewhere. Like some send it to Newark, New Jersey, Black and Brown community gets burned there. Some send it to Bridgeport, Black and Brown community, burn it over there. So not all of it comes to Peekskill, but it's all going to an incinerator, and it's all harming predominantly Black and Brown communities. And so we, are in solidarity with those other communities as well. So yeah, but the vast majority of the garbage that Westchester residents throw out comes here and gets burned.
Wow.
See,
and we breathe it.
This is the continuation of racism by zip code. And it's sad to even see, even with garbage, right? Even how we deal with garbage, there's a racist tone in how we even deal with that. And then the effects of our health, right? And then what happens? You get cities that don't have great healthcare systems, and we wonder why, the lifespan of people of color and poor people are so low, because it's systematic on what you're doing to us in our communities. And why do we keep voting for these people? Like, I really don't understand. I think at this point, it's a lack of education. It has to be a lack of education and knowing, what's actually going on, because I think, the average person is struggling, and they're not really thinking about where their garbage go. They're just thinking about, let's just get rid of the garbage. But
Yeah,
when
I
you
never knew that. I never even
right,
thought about
and
that.
the things that you said today, I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Like, how do we even, and knowing it's expired and nobody's doing anything and nobody is saying anything, and these are the people that's supposed to represent us. I think, I guess, Legislator Smith you said he has voted for things to move it down, which is great, but we also need him to ensure the community of Peekskill and the other communities that he's on it, like to be a little more vocal on it, because these are the people that vote. Look, I like Colin Smith. I have
Me
nothing.
too.
I have nothing against him. He's a friend of the magazine, but we still need elected officials to be vocal and try to assure the people that they're working on it. So yeah, we
Yeah, I
welcome
think
you to write
Who
an
who is
article.
your state senator and assembly person?
so. My state senator is Pete Harcum, and my assembly member is Dana Levenberg, and they both are really already out front.
Good.
They have been keeping on top of the DEC, because the DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation, kind of stopped replying to our emails and inquiries. And so their offices have been reaching out to demand updates and like really helping us to keep the pressure on. And so, they've been in front of this issue for so long that Sandy Galiff, our previous assembly member, was asking about these permits. That's how long they've been expired. So we definitely have champions at the state level.
Great.
But one thing I wanted to say is I think that really a lot of these companies are taking advantage of communities that are desperate for a tax base. And that's really what Win Waste is the name of the company now. Some folks know the incinerator as the Wheelabrator incinerator, but they do a payment in lieu of taxes. That's a big chunk of money that goes to Peekskill, and it keeps a lot of the elected officials from taking a strong stance against it because they don't want to undermine the tax base. But what we can do is invest in the other solutions. And, like we did an analysis of what it would take to move Westchester County towards what's called zero waste, like reducing our garbage by like 90%. So we wouldn't need an incinerator. It could create over 1,000 jobs, and they would be jobs that aren't polluting our air and harming our residents.
Right.
And this incinerator, it is owned by the Westchester County Industrial Development Agency. This kind of thing is being done in the name of making money and
Right.
building a tax base and providing an
Is
employment.
that under county government?
It is like the members of the Westchester County Industrial Development Agency are appointed by the county government, but they're political appointees.
Right.
And so they're really making it's really making the decision to exchange Black and brown lives for tax money.
Yeah.
And, my census tract where I live right now, we have a higher environmental burden than 98% of the census tracts in New York State. That is how much polluting infrastructure is here. And I am lucky, right? I'm on here. I am a white lady. I have a good job. I have healthcare. I have, stable housing that I can afford. A lot of my neighbors do not have that.
Right.
And that makes them much less able to cope with this kind of pollution. And, that's why we need folks who have the bandwidth to take up this fight to do it, because a lot of my neighbors working 2 jobs, having trouble paying the rent, putting food on the table. They don't have time to volunteer. They can't take time off work to show up at a meeting with an elected official. We need our decision makers to do the right thing because it's the right thing, not because everybody's taking time off work to go, meet with them during bankers hours,
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
What is your local government, mayor and city council of Peekskill on all of this? Are they pushing the buttons? Are they doing? No.
Nope. They're not speaking up about it. They're not taking a stance. I think they're happy to have the funds. One of our councilmen was in the planning department when this incinerator got built. And when WAS launched, the local paper, the Peekskill Herald, did an article, and he said it's the right thing to do for our garbage. And I'm like, 40 years later, that's still the best solution? I don't think so. I'm not driving a 40-year-old car. Very little I do now is the way it was done 40 years ago. And it shouldn't be this either. We can do this without hurting the health of, Black and brown people. I welcome, if Chappaqua or Scarsdale or Pound Ridge, if they want a trash incinerator, let's build it over there. They wouldn't allow it.
That's not happening.
The Clintons and Martha Stewart don't want it in their backyard, but it can be here in Peekskill for us to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to invite you to utilize us as a soundboard to get the word out. So please, any editorials you want to write, complete with data and charts, whatever you have, we need to get the word out about this because, again, I'm personally speaking, I never knew this. So Paul brought it to my attention maybe a month or so ago or a little longer. And what I'm hearing now from you, I'm literally hearing this for the first time. And I think that I'm probably more informed than a lot of people in my community. So if I don't know, I guarantee you a lot of our listeners in Westchester County have no idea none of this is going on. So we need
I moved to Peekskill, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know it was there. It was through other environmental justice work that I found out about it. And it's the same story over and over again. It's always Black and brown communities that face this stuff. And Peekskill has a huge burden of it. Yonkers does, Mount Vernon, but it's like, it's always it's the communities with folks that have the least bandwidth to keep track of it all. And why does it take people, like, why do I have to spend my Sunday evening discussing trash incineration? Like, can we not just do the right thing to keep people, planet healthy?
Exactly. And closing, is there a website for people that are hearing this and may want to find out more about this? Is there a website? And secondly, I like to leave, we bring up problems, like to bring up solutions. What can the average listener, resident of Westchester, do about this? What, if they want to get involved, how can they help?
Sure. So we do have a website. It is waspeekskill.org, WASS peekskill.org. And the thing that folks can do is to get involved is to join our Zero Waste Task Force. So Paul and I and the rest of WAS launched this in January of 2022. We have had over 300 people participate since then. It meets once a month for 1 hour. There is an educational component and then action. We take action to address this issue. So sometimes we are calling the governor. Sometimes we're sending emails to elected officials. Sometimes we are, sending letters to the editor, things like that. So there's always an action component. Gets it all done in 1 hour. It meets the second Wednesday of the month at 7:30 on Zoom. And so if people go to waspeekskill.org, they will see a link there for our Zero Waste Task Force, and they can sign up and get involved to change this, because it is burning garbage from all over Westchester County. So that means we need people from all over Westchester County pushing their board of legislators and the county executive to put the processes in place to shut this thing down.
Absolutely. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for bringing this awareness. Thank you, Paul, for pushing this so we address this. Please, again, invitation for editorials. And also, anybody in your organization wants to write letters to the editor. It's blackwestchester@gmail.com. Paul has all our information. He can give it to you. Yep. And I want to thank you. And please feel free to keep us up to date so, we can continue. I don't want this to be a one-off, but we can continue putting pressure on this situation, bring it
Thanks so much.
to the
yes.
Thank you.
I appreciate you too, and thank you both for everything that you're doing. You know, in terms of Black media, having that voice in this platform. Like I've been looking around at the other 61 counties of New York State. Don't really see too many county level Black media organizations or anything too much in terms of the 3,143 counties we have throughout the United States of America. So
Thank
thank
you.
you for everything you're doing.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
thank
Thank
you,
you.
thank you.
Talk to you
Y'all
soon.
have a blessed day. All
Yes.
right. Yes, yes, yes. So this is our segment, and we're going to be bringing you more environmental stuff. Shout out to the environmental leaders of color. And you know, we had the interview with the 4 girls that came on, and they were talking about drain, pouring your grease down the drain, and the environmental hazards of
Right.
that. And so we're going to be bringing you periodically a little more environmental stuff, because
And
one thing we don't talk about, that's another thing, mental health and environmental stuff. We don't
right.
have these conversations.
Right. And one thing, big shout out to Dr. Diana Williams. She had a graduation yesterday, co-sponsored by ELOC, TRC, and Con Edison at the Westchester Community College in Mount Vernon, with 25 high school students participating in the first annual Technology and the Environment Advanced Computer Classes for high school students, right? So over 35 students, family members were at the attendance, you know, and they're doing great work, man. Big shout out to Dr. Diana Williams. Give a
Yes.
hope everybody's hearing that. So we definitely I'm shouting that out. And on LinkedIn, my brother Mike Hannon, he said he's been living in Peekskill for 20 years and didn't even know this.
Wow. See, and that's the point. Like I'm saying,
right.
If you don't, the people in the Peekskill don't know it, the rest of the Westchester doesn't know it.
Exactly.
Real quick, I will always encourage people to be engaged in their community. And I'll do this real briefly. Politics is a participatory sport. Whether it's environmental issues or whatever the issue is, you, the registered voter, you, the resident, have the responsibility of engaging with your elected officials and pushing the matters that need to be pushed in your community. This Wednesday, May 8th, Yonkers is having a town hall meeting to address the concerns of the community at the Neppahan Community Center from 7 to 9. Now, all my Yonkers people out there that call Black Westchester and is always complaining about either what the government's not doing or what's wrong, this is your place that you need to be at the Neppahan Center, and let your voice be heard. Shout out to the Colemans and Keisha Skipper and the NAACP in Yonkers. But this is where you need to go. And for everybody listening, you need to be going to your city council meetings, your county legislative meetings, your school board meetings, and you need to get involved and be engaged with your elected officials and hold their feet to the fire and bring them the issues that you're concerned about instead of just complaining. And you call us for us to do something. There's a whole lot that you can do. You voted for these people. They need your vote to stay in office or to get in office. So you have a responsibility as well. And I just want to put that out there.
Absolutely. So we're gonna move on to the next subject.
Absolutely. WCA, right?
Yeah, hold on a second. I'm trying to pull up the article here.
And for all of y'all that tuned in for the topic of the day, we will be getting to that, dealing with the Anti-Semitic Awareness Act.
Right.
We will be dealing with that. So stay tuned.
So, you know, as a lot of people know, I just retired last August, and me and AJ are members of WCA. Yes, you could have members in law enforcement, and you could have civilian members also, because we both knew the importance of having an organization of officers of color. One thing that has been in past meetings over the last three years, you know, the double standards on how women are treated, and especially Black women up at the Westchester County Jail. I hold no bones about it. I've sent many women of color to the EEOC to make complaints And since, COVID, EEOC is very slow. And for advice for anybody who's watching this, don't go to the county EEOC. File with the feds. That's almost asking police to investigate themselves. But file with the feds if you feel that your rights are being violated, especially because you're a woman or a Black woman. Don't file with the county, file with the feds. And it's nice people, work with the county, but it is what it is. We're talking about transparency. We're just
even when getting a civil rights attorney to handle certain things like that, you should get an attorney most likely outside of Westchester.
Right. If you can't get Mayo, right, you get an attorney outside of Westchester County. Right. If you can't get Mayor Bartlett or Randolph Scott McLaughlin, get an attorney outside of Westchester. I'm keeping it 100. Get an attorney outside of Westchester. If you can't get Randolph Scott McLaughlin, right? Or his wife, Nancy Cohen, right? Or Mayo Bartlett, right? Go out of Westchester. Don't even waste your time. I'm talking about civil rights attorneys. Until one civil rights attorney, unless one is in law school right now about this, that's different. That's different. So
shout out to William Wagstaff. He's a civil rights attorney that's been done some good work too.
Yeah.
I wanted to shout him out.
I forgot about William. Yeah, William Wagstaff. William Wagstaff. He does his thing. Well, he comes out of the camp of Randolph Scott McLaughlin and Mayo Bartlett.
That explains that.
So listen, man, it has to be addressed. And the reason, and one of the main reasons this article was wrote, because the president of WCA, and AJ, you could talk about this too, the president was brought up on Facebook charges from the organization's page. Now, if an organization is posting something, let
me just say something. I am affiliated with the WCA. I'm not sure if I posted that particular comment, but I have privileges and administrative privileges for the WCA page, the Westchester Corrections Association page.
That's my point.
So to say that the president necessarily wrote something that appeared on the page, and let me be clear, I have a lot of contacts in the Westchester Department of Corrections that wasn't just Damon and wasn't just the president of WCA. I wrote several stories that Damon didn't know nothing about, and he got calls about. He was like, "What you talking about?" Because he didn't even know. Because people, I'm just saying, I just want to put that out there. I have access to several members, including the union presidents and all that, to get information, and I've done stories. So I have privileges to post on here. So to say that the president, who is or was a correction officer, posted those comments and to go after her is unacceptable, because you can't. You don't know she wrote it. I wrote some of the stuff that's on there. I don't know if I wrote that particular comment, but I wrote.
And so did I. And so did I. So the whole and we knew that was false, because unless you don't contact Facebook and the FBI to get the computer
transcript or the records.
No. What's the computer tag?
Yeah.
I can't even think of the name right now. Right? IP address. Unless you got the IP address, you ain't got nothing.
Let me just say, anything we post, speaking specifically of Damon and I, we have receipts to back it up. So please come after us. I'm saying please come after us.
Wait. That's not even the case, right? We're not even going to take it to that level, because they understand. What I'm saying is, to charge this woman for organizational Facebook posts that clearly you couldn't prove it was her. And And just like I spoke to the union president, I'm like, if this goes through, I got all the screenshots of all the white officers that talked about Lattimore and had pictures of Joe. And y'all can kick me out the group. I really don't care. Pictures of Joe, but you can't do one or do the other. And this is another example when a white officer made a post and it went viral. I don't care if it was in a private set. People were screenshotting it and sending it all over the department. There's nothing private. There's nothing private about social media.
The word social should tell you that, but go ahead.
Exactly. There's nothing private. Even if you kick me out the group, guess what?
Somebody will screenshot it and send it to us.
And send it to me.
Right. Which is where we get most of our information.
Or send it to the person that you're talking about. And the thing is, this officer here, which I don't even understand, is complaining, I guess it's about post bidding and people being out with their contractual rights to address whatever their health issues are.
But only officers of color, from what I understand.
Let me finish.
Okay.
You cannot, and you're not a medical doctor. And now you're violating HIPAA rules. And then someone from the county is like, they violated. Dude, I've been working there 33 years. I know the social media policy. If anybody within the 33 years have been talking shit on social media, it's me. So I know the policy. And I know what you can do and what you can't do. And that you can't do. And nothing that the WCA did would warranted Officer Brooke Jones, to be brought up on those charges. But this is how they do black folks, and nobody want to talk about it. Nobody want to talk about it. I don't care if we got a Latino first deputy commissioner or another black deputy commissioner. Black folks are still getting a double standard. What did the professor say in her speech? Black faces and places don't help us. So now we at this point. And yes, WCA put out a statement to make sure Joe Spano bring this officer up on charges, because the officer that he mentioned, they all were officers of color.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
And that's unacceptable. That's totally unacceptable. I know one officer now went to the deputy commissioner, Gerald, and harassment got worse. And now she's seeing a psychiatrist every month. These are facts.
Harassment from the officers or harassment from him?
The supervisors. See, I had to get up out of there because I was going to knock one of them goddamn captains out. And I'd rather save my retirement instead of seeing them walking around with a broken jaw. Because they push you too far. And then you cover for that nonsense. The department covers for the nonsense. They suspended a black sergeant for the same captain. They cover for the nonsense. When you have constant people giving you stories and trying to come to you for help, then why don't you look at the person? You need to get that man some help. You have to get him some help. That's the point. Nobody is addressing the cause. They just want to cover things up. Don't want nobody to talk about it. So that's the problem. So yeah, that officer needs to be brought up on charges. And there needs to be some more accountability on how y'all treat people, especially black people. And then you want the person to write, oh, well, write them up. How you go? Well, hell, the female officer went to the deputy commissioner and she got more harassed. So what does that point? Well, what did that prove? It proves nothing. It really proves nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I was confirmed that the investigation is ongoing and it was a violation. I already knew that. But this has to be addressed and it has to be fixed. Instead of and you need to talk to your supervisors on how they talk to people. Correction officers work in a job that's highly stressful. And you never know what's going to happen one day. What's the ongoing joke in the Batman comics with Joker? It just takes one day. One bad day. It takes one bad day. And some of y'all supervisors be pushing these officers to have that one bad day. Which is backed by the department because they don't check these supervisors. So somebody needs to do something. If the union's not going to do anything, then someone needs to do something. And I think in months to come, we're going to have open discussions about what's going on up there and how they treat black women. Because it needs to happen, because it needs to change. And elected officials, not everything is a union problem. Oh, well, they need to talk to the union. No, you need to talk to management. It's something simple that's in the Bible. Treat people how you want to be treated. And if you can't do that, then you shouldn't be in any type of power position over no 750 officers. Straight music. So we're watching, you know, and then people are like, well, what you talking about before you retired? I'm still a member of the organization and I can say what I want to say. I said it when I was working there and I'll say it here. Especially when it affects people that I worked with over decades.
And as the publisher and editor of Black Westchester, it's our job to address stuff like that regardless. I ain't never worked there, but that's the job, to shed light on situations like that. So that's why we're talking about it. That's why I wrote the article.
And since nobody else is doing anything about it, and many of y'all and the ones that's criticizing work there. Just in case, because I know it's going to be some. Many of y'all got my number. You got a problem, you can call me. So let's move on to the next subject.
Yes. So as I started out the show, there is a new Anti-Semitic Awareness Act that expands the definition of anti-Semitic. They're also trying to get it to attach it to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So there's a bunch of different definitions, and one of the definitions that they include is claiming that Jewish people are responsible for the execution of Jesus Christ of Nazareth by the Roman authority. It has long been regarded as an anti-Semitic trope by many, even been rejected by some historians and theologians, and Pope Benedict in 2011. But this controversial bill would literally deem the Bible anti-Semitic and maybe even illegal if it's a bill. And before you say I'm jumping off the roof, if this is a bill passed, it passed the House, and if it passed the Senate and it's signed by the president, it will be law. Remember that back in the days, I'm just a bill, I'm only a bill. That's how bills get, like, you know what I'm saying? Right now it's just a bill, it's only a bill sitting on Capitol Hill. But if it gets passed, it will be a law. So what I want to know is, for every church that teaches the story of Jesus during Palm Sunday, Passover week, the Holy Week, and Easter, tells the story of the death of Jesus. And you know, Mel Gibson covered some of that in The Passion of the Christ and caught a lot of flack from the Jewish community. But one of the examples, you know, because before we get into opinions and stuff, I wanted to get to what the Bible actually says about this. In Acts 3, Peter and John, who ran with Jesus, his disciples, there was a crippled man from birth that was carried to the temple gates called Beautiful, and he would be there every day begging from everybody who gets in the temple. And they healed this man in the name of Jesus Christ from narrative. He jumped to his feet and began to walk. There was a problem, and chapter 4 goes on to talk about the problem that the government had with them healing this person. And they asked him basically, and so we know who we're talking about. We're talking about the priest, the Jewish priest, the captain of the temple, who is Jewish, the Sadducees, who are Jewish. They came up to Peter and John while they were speaking to the people. They were greatly disturbed. This is Acts 4. They were greatly disturbed because the apostles were teaching the people and proclaiming Jesus, the resurrection of the dead. They seized Peter and John, and because it was evening, they put them in jail to the next day. Many who had heard the message started to believe, and the numbers of men grew up to about 5,000. The next day, the Jewish rulers, the Jewish elders, and the Jewish teachers of law met in Jerusalem. Annas, I don't know if I pronounced it right, Annas, the high priest, also Caprius, I don't know if I pronounced that as Caiapas, and John Alexander and the other men of the high priest family, they brought John before and began to question, what power or what name do you do this? Peter said, with the Holy Spirit, he said he did this in the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. And then he said, you of the people of Israel, of Jesus Christ, you who crucified him, and all of this, and later on, people blame the Roman government.
Not yet. What's up? Just give us synopsis of the. All right.
So the Jewish people have been fighting for years this thing that they were responsible for the death of Jesus, claiming it's anti-Semitic. This bill would make that a law, being anti-Semitic. They say the Romans only did it. But the Romans, Pontius Pilate, who was the head of the Romans, the emperor or the governor or whatever, he wanted to wash his hands of it. He publicly pronounced he saw no wrong with this man. He wanted to actually have him released, and they said stuff like him. According to the Bible, this is all in Acts This is all in Acts, Mark, Matthew, and Luke, and John, right? So and I'll put this in the scripture in under the article. I mean under the video, so you can look it up yourselves. So Pontius Pilate said he saw no right. He said he wanted to release the man. The Jewish people and that were present was yelling, "Crucify him! Crucify him! You are not no friend of Caesar if you release this man. Anybody who claims to be a king goes against Caesar." So they were pushing for him. They delivered him. They were pushing for his execution. They were pushing for the Roman government to kill him. They delivered him to the Roman governor. And even when there's this time of the year where they release a prisoner, they put Jesus up and this known thief, figuring, that's how they get out of it. They'll release Jesus. They picked the thief.
Because he was more well known.
Right, leading to Jesus' death. Jesus even said to Pontius Pilate, basically, those who delivered me to you have committed a greater sin. So I say this to say, in summary, to say that the Jewish people were solely responsible for the death of Jesus would be historically inaccurate. But it is historically accurate according to the Bible, that is preached in all churches, that is preached not just black churches and white churches too. They celebrate all of this according to their historical fact. The Jewish people were partially responsible, and they were involved in the death of Jesus Christ. They disowned him. They led him to the Romans, and they pushed the Romans to crucify him. So now, if you pass a law now, and you make this a law to say you can no longer say this, and it is anti-Semitic, does that deem the Bible to be anti-Semitic?
Yes.
Will that deem the Bible to be illegal?
Yes, it's not. Would it be? The law is what it is. This is not any type of questioning, because if you read what they're following, what they're following the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. They're following their definition of anti-Semitic, which is totally false, because Semitic people are people of color, are Arabs, are Africans. So this is insane. This is insane. For them to even say anything is anti-Semitic. And part of it says the Jews claims that the Jews killed Jesus, right? To characterize Israel or Israelis. No. This is how they're framing the definition of anti-Semitic. So yes, when you look at the passages that you read and you look at the passages that you talk about, AJ, yes. But I brought that up a while ago. Even Minister Farrakhan talked about that years ago, that there were going to be a point that they were going to say that the Bible was anti-Semitic. And now they're trying to pass a law. And as you said, they're trying to put it in the Civil Rights Act. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And it's brought by Representative Mike Lawler, who's out of the 17th district, right?
Who's running for re-election against Montana?
Who's running for re-election? Who's running for re-election? And listen, we're black people Christians are caught in a hard place in District 17. Because at one side, you got Mondier, who don't even come into black communities. And then on the other side, you got Lawler, who ain't even letting us pray. Ain't even letting us talk about the life of Christ. Our representatives have got to this point. It's why are we voting? The lesser of the two evils. And let's not forget, this is Mike Lawler's first term, correct?
Yes, he's running for re-election. He beat Mondier in the last election. Yes,
and he's already received $59,801 from AIPAC. And this is an AIPAC legislation because they don't want to see people in these college campuses. They don't want to see people, and they're not pro-Gaza, as you get some of these crazy politicians talking. They're not pro-Gaza. They're anti-war. They're anti-investment in war. Have we forgot? They're using our tax dollars to prosecute a war. So why should our tax dollars go over there? So you got people like Mike Lawler, who's pushing for bills the silent dissent of Christians.
So
even of Christians and average people, because if you talk about the war, it's anti-Semitic, but the definition of Semitic is not what this bill is.
You have the American Civil Liberties Union, Christopher Anders, who's the director. He warns that this bill will lead to pressures on colleges and universities to restrict speech critical of the Israeli government out of fear of the colleges losing federal funding. The House, and his quote is, "The House approval of this misguided and harmful bill is a direct attack on the First Amendment." Now I want to be clear, because, and this is stuff that we shouldn't have to say. So for our loyal followers and listeners, you already know this, but for all those who are going to try to attach and take a piece of this, Black Westchester has always maintained any kind of form of racism, bigotry, or discrimination against any group of people is unacceptable. As a Black man, I couldn't stand for discrimination against anybody with how Black people have been treated in this country and abroad. You know what I'm saying? So we shouldn't have to say that. We shouldn't have to explain. We shouldn't have to explain that. But I need to put out this disclaimer, because there will people that will go run with a piece of this video and then put it out there as we are pro-Gaza, pro-Hamas, Hamas supporters, or anti-Israel. None of that is the case. But I do believe that this bill goes too far. The definition of anti-Semitism is what it is. If you want to add some stuff to it or whatever, and you work that out, but this has been a something that the Jewish community has been fighting for over 6,000 years, that they had no involvement in the death of over 2,000 years. I'm sorry, no involvement in the death of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Whether you believe in Jesus as the Son of Man or whatever, the Bible, which is stories, and some supposedly told from first account from people who were there, the Peter, Paul, the Peter, John, Luke, all of those, and even some letters by Paul. This is what basically is accepted, what is taught in theology, what is taught in churches all over America and abroad. And if this definition goes through, again, so that makes the Bible anti-Semitic now. Like in this era of now, we want to whitewash everything. We want to make anything we don't like illegal to say. This doesn't help us grow as a people. This just further divides us because we're not comfortable with the uncomfortable conversations. Everything said that has to do with Jewish people or anybody who feels that there is too many people being killed on both sides in this war and what Israel's doing is equally wrong, that doesn't make you anti-Semitic. And you have the right to speak. Now, I do want to say, and as a Black person, we've had plenty of rallies and protests where other groups of people have tried to co-opt our peaceful rallies, and that happens. But from what I understand, and from what I read, and from the coverage that I've seen, the majority of these people are having a peaceful protest. These students are having a peaceful protest. I'm not talking about, I'm not with attacking students and breaking windows and illegally breaking in buildings. I'm not justifying any of that. So please miss us with all of that. Because in these conversations, it's good to throw rhetoric at a situation to not deal with the situation. Well, what about this? Or what about that? There's a small group of people who are outside agitators who are trying to co-opt this thing. The same way they go to Black Lives Matter rally and start throwing stuff at the police or breaking windows and starting stuff. That's a small group of people of the majority of the people that are peacefully protesting. And Black people, before you say that this bill does not concern you, if they can make this illegal for Jewish people, for other people to protest what's going on in Israel, non-Black people, what do you think they're going to do to us at the protests and rallies we have? This is a slippery slope to making all protests illegal. Like these countries like Russia, where and making what we do illegal. In Russia, journalists are shot and killed and jailed. People that speak up in Russia and Iran and those countries, they're killed or they're thrown in jail for speaking up against the government. You don't understand. You live in one of the countries that you have the right to say something about. You have a right to attack President Biden if you don't like him or whoever the president is. You have a right to speak up against any of your elected officials. If this is a slippery slope to going to countries like Russia and Iran and all of those where you get killed, because now they passing laws, we getting people in there to pass these little bullshit laws, and then it's illegal for you to do it. Then they can shoot and kill you and throw you in jail for just speaking your mind. So everybody should be greatly concerned about this, not just the people that are being called anti-Semitic. And regardless of whatever your definition of Semitic is, from what I see, there are Jewish students protesting what's going on in Israel. What's being done by Israel, what's going on in Gaza. There are Jewish people, there are Jewish administrators of these colleges, and there are Jewish employees of these colleges. Maybe only a few, but they're taking part in this as well. Are they anti-Semitic too? They're Jewish. They can't speak up against what they see as an atrocity. So that's David, go ahead. I wanted to put all that out there.
I think we're in a crossroads with politics on how organizations like AIPAC and corporations influence politicians like Mike Lawler. Right? That's his name? That's his name, right?
Lawler, yeah. L-A-W-L-E-R.
L-A-W-L-E-R. Like Mike Lawler, like George Lattimore. It doesn't matter. It could be Republicans or Democrats. These
Because some Democrats voted for this shit.
Yeah, the majority of them did. The majority of Democrats, where Black people, where we're majority Christians and believe in Jesus Christ, your Democrats that you put in office, voted for this bill to make the Bible anti-Semitic.
I want to hear from the pastors on this. I want to hear from the clergy on this.
That's what I'm waiting for.
Especially black clergy, because we're Black Westchester. But I want to hear from any clergy that represents and teaches the Bible, that teach what is in the Bible. They teach this as a historical fact of matter. And I want to hear what you have to say about this. I have not heard any real pushback from anybody in the clergy, period. And it could have been statements that I missed, and they missed me. I didn't see nothing. I especially haven't heard nothing. We're Black Westchester. I especially haven't heard clergy in Westchester, black, white, or indifferent, say nothing about this.
A lot of them probably just finding out about it because they just passed the bill.
Well, I want to hear. We want to hear from all of you.
We're going to stay on it, and I just, Representative Jamal Bowman, of course, he voted against it. And I just, to bring him on, we'll do an interview with him and show it live whenever his schedule is, to really talk about the impact of this bill, not just on our faith, but on the rights of free speech, because this is, and I had a discussion with a politician. He says, well, this piece of legislation is not the same. I mean, this protest is not the same as Vietnam. And I'm like, why? He said, well, people protest because they didn't want to get drafted. I said, no, they were also protesting that they didn't want the war, right? That they didn't want the war, whether they were drafted or not. They didn't want the war for America to invest in an unjust war.
They protested against what was going on in Afghanistan and how long that was.
Exactly. So let's not try to change the narrative, to fit political foolishness. And what's also crazy is that I never thought I would live to see in my adult life where politicians are scared to speak the truth. Because all the time, man, I came up, I looked at Adam Clayton Powell. I looked at all these different, strong black men and women. You know what I'm saying? Shirley Chisholm, who said she was unbought and unbossed. Like, y'all not going to silence me to these weak-kneed black men and women. And some of them are elected, and some of them are pastors in elected positions, and they're not even saying, "Thus say the Lord." Like, this is crazy. It's insane.
I think what we need to do as well, since we have an election coming up, all those people that are running for office, especially running for Congress, we need to see where they stand on that. George Latimer wants to unseat Jamal Bowman. I would like to invite him on the show to see where he stands on that. These are questions that need to be asked. I don't know if he probably won't accept the invitation, but I want to know. But
you need to send it anyway.
Yeah, but we're going to send an invitation because you just said we're going to send an invitation to Jamal Bowman, and there is an election. So, but people need to know where. People need to right.
But I'm saying it because he voted no.
Right. But people need to know where George Latimer stands on this, on a bill, on a bill like this, because if he wins, bills like this are going to come up. How are you voting? You understand what I'm saying? What would you do? What are your thoughts on this? How would you have voted if you were currently in Congress? Like, those things need to be asked because you're asking for our votes. You know what I'm saying? So that should be a question in any debate or candidate forum or any cottage party or, by any media should ask them that. And again, I'm publicly saying here, but I will officially send an email and invite you to come on here. And it's not to beat you up. I don't agree with a couple of things about you. I don't agree with a couple of things about any politician. You've come on here before. We were good when you were running to unseat Astorino. We endorsed you twice. We've covered a lot of your policies. You came on our show to give your year in review and your forecast for the new year. You came on with Andrea Stewart Cousins. You came and sat in the studio with us a lot of times. So I want to give you, because we want to inform voters, I want to give you the same invitation to come on, and I want to know where you stand on this bill. Do you support it? Do you agree? And how do you feel about these expanding terms on anti-Semitic that would actually literally deem the Bible to be anti-Semitic and illegal? How do you stand on that? And secondly, I want to hear from, because when we speak, it goes out. Whether I send you an invitation, you're all going to know about this. So all my black pastors, all clergy period, but especially my black pastors and our communities, y'all all hear when we talk about y'all. When we say black pastors, I get phone calls saying, you're not that pastor we talk about. So all the black pastors, where do you stand on it? Especially the brother who works for the county at the corrections. You were running for the same seat, and you were the pastor of one of the churches, the church in Tuckahoe. What do you feel about that? Because it would be illegal for you to preach this. And you preach about this every year, probably several times a year, but definitely that time, but leading up into Palm Sunday, all of Holy Week, the leading into Easter, and a little bit after, y'all speak about this stuff. Y'all preach this from the Bible. But from now on, it would be anti-Semitic for you to preach that. I really want to hear what you have to say about that. And since you were running for office and you backed out to office, where do you stand? Would you sign a bill like this? Would you have been one of the black people, the Democrats that voted for this? I want to hear from you. I want to hear from the pastors, what they have to feel. And if there's no pushback from the clergy and the elected officials.
If there's no pushback from the clergy, we are living in the days in Revelation where, and we are living in the days where Jesus is going to say, I don't know you. And that's in the Bible, when he's going to deny those who claim him. And this is your test. This is your test. Those that claim him, this is your test. Are you going to stand up, or are you going to punk out? Are you going to allow them to pass a bill that say the Bible is anti-Semitic, and then you can't even preach on how Jesus was crucified and betrayed and backstabbed?
That'll put the Bible on the banned book list.
Well, no, they're gonna run in. They're gonna run up in churches and take the pastor off the pulpit. The only place I know they ain't running is Nation of Islam Mosque. They not running in there. And the minister talk about Jesus.
Yeah. Giuliani made that mistake once, and he had to pay that price. He had to pay a price.
The mistake happened twice in history. The mistake happened twice.
Both in New York?
Yep.
Okay, I know Giuliani was one.
Mosque number 7.
Yeah, I know Giuliani did that. They're in prayer.
It happened twice. It happened twice in history in both accounts. The first accounts, the police got their butts handed to. Second account, I guess they got a little handed to too, but
there was a price to pay.
Yeah. But this is another reason, when I talk about in my book, Jesus and divine black masculinity, that churches need to have more rites of passage. They need to have a system like the FOI. They need to have that. And it's just not talking about the military structure, but training men to be more Christ-like. And then we won't be afraid of that. Why is black people, the only our religion, when we follow Christianity, we always worried about what the government is doing. Other religions have their own community. Sometimes the police can't even go in their community unless they get permission.
Black church need to get back into the days of James Cone. I tell you that. I've been reading a lot of James Cone lately.
Yeah, me too. And another thing, look, if we don't get on it as black people, And I keep telling everybody that this country is disowning you Negroes. They're slowly disowning the Negroes. And we don't see it because we just want to be so close to the winner. Like we got this culture, like, you know, even if the person is bad for us and we feel that they're going to win, we side with them. And that's not good for our communities. It's not going to help us at all, you know, for the equality that a lot of us talk about. Right? I feel bad for the people that live in District 17 on the choices that they have. And it's amazing that we don't want strong black men in office. Even the Democratic Party don't want strong black men in office. They want black men that's going to go along and get along with whatever the party says. And that's not good for our community. It's not good. It's not good at all.
So I wonder, you know, I've been in church for, over the years, I've heard pastors talk about the early days of Christianity, where Christians were being killed for being Christians. And they had to like fight for their religion and fight for their standing up for Jesus. And the question is always asked, what would you do if you were ever in that situation? And for most people, it's unfathomable that we would actually be in a situation like that. If this bill passes, this is the beginning of us being in a situation like that. This is a slippery slope. This is the government going back to telling preachers what they can preach about, churches what they can preach about. There was a time when churches had to hand their sermon into their local government to make sure certain things wasn't in it. We're not in those days, and because most of us never lived in the time of those days, and these things happened, you know, almost 2,000 years ago, we don't think they can happen now. Bills like this is a slippery slope to that. And I'm not talking about hate speech when I say free speech. Well, actually, you're free to say whatever you want. You're free to get punched in the face for saying it, or whatever too. So for as far as hate speech, you're free to say it, but you're free to deal with whatever the repercussion of the words out of your mouth is. But this is not hate speech when you're talking about what you learned in church from the Bible. This is not hate speech. Just because it doesn't paint the Jewish community in a positive light does not make it their definition of anti-Semitic. We're getting to the point where anything that they don't like said about them is considered anti-Semitic because they built up a certain financial power structure. They have money to invest in all these politicians, so the politicians will pass laws like this. It's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. The laws are going to get more restrictive, not less. We're really living in a perilous time right now. And people need to pay attention when they're voting in this election and the next couple of these upcoming elections. They're going to have repercussions. And we need to be contacting our elected officials in Congress and in the Senate to see where they stand on this bill, especially those that represent people that might watch the show in the House that voted for this. There needs to be some pushback on that from you. There needs to be pushback from the black clergy, from the clergy, period. It can't just be the black clergy. because then it won't be taken serious. It has to be from the clergy. Seriously, like, I'm not trying to be funny, but I'm trying to. There needs to be the white clergy should be outraged about this too. They teach the same thing in church.
Well, that's but see, these are the people. The Christian right is the one that's making all the noise right now. Like, we wouldn't knew about it if it wasn't for the Christian right. But just like Brenda, just like Brenda posted, she said, look at this. 187 Republicans, yes.
133 Democrats, yes.
No, I think
Republicans 187.
Yes, 133 20, Democrats, yes.
Yeah, and that's what I said.
No, and yeah, 70
and only 21 Republicans said no. So even there's even Republicans that'll be and say, oh no, this is too far.
Right, it's too far. It's too far. But when you have organizations, people understand your politicians are bought and paid for. And it's to the extreme. And we've done shows on this. We've talked about this. We've tried to educate y'all brothers and sisters that they're being bought. They're being bought. And people need to wear. Let me tell you something. This election here in 2024, right? They have given George Lattimore $1,633,000 to run against Representative Jamal Bowman. When you invest $1,633,000, he's going to vote yes. He's going to vote yes. They only invested little $60,000 in Lawler, and he wrote the bill. APAC. If y'all don't believe me, go on to opensecrets.org. They list everybody that get money. And right now, the 23-24 election cycle from APAC, Lattimore has gotten the most money out of all of them.
Tanya, who actually I just appeared on her podcast, she said they all voted because that's who pays their meal ticket.
Exactly.
That's why even Kennedy and all the candidates are falling in line with anything they do or say.
Because they cut checks.
Right. And she said that don't matter. That apparently they have shut down their own who didn't co-sign on this debauchery. That's no rights at all.
Right.
And absolutely. Yeah, Brenda shared the link to the Schoolhouse Rock. I'm just a bill, so y'all can click on that. If y'all, for your young people that might not know what I'm talking about, we need to bring that need to be back on TV on Saturdays too. So the young people.
But that's the dumbing down of America, right? Yeah. So you get rid of those little programs that educate young people, and they do it in a way, and we know, it's scientifically proven when you do things in songs, right? What's the easiest when you put it in a jingle, right? Right. And let me tell you, my granddaughter, 3 years old. I played Bestie 5 times. Now she knows it.
I'm going to tell you, on the music industry side, we are taught if kids can sing your chorus, you have a hit record.
You got a hit.
Like that is taught to artists. That is told to artists from the industry. So then you have people making these jingly records and choruses that steal from that should owe Dr. Seuss and Mother Goose royalties because they sound like that's what the choruses sound like. And
that Bestie joint. Bestie joint. Even though it's a minute, but I know he's working on a full album for his daughter. that bestie joint is crazy. Like kids just go crazy over that. And you know what? And I ain't mad at that.
That was the thing. That was the success of the show Barney. He sang
Yeah,
all those songs, the remix of all those songs.
God.
He had kids hypnotized. Like kids could tell you everything that Barney. That was like,
Barney was
you could
crazy.
Your kids could be out of control, running around the house, and Barney starts singing "I love you," and it's like, and they just stop and look at the TV like they get hypnotized. But they teach artists that, and the music industry and the labels push that on artists. The thing, the line is, if the kids can sing your chorus, you have a hit record. So then they started making these jingly choruses that sound like nursery rhymes, or are from nursery rhymes, or have the rhythm of a rhythmic style of a nursery rhyme. And that's why your kid who can't learn the new math and can't tell you what they learned in science or anywhere else can tell you the choruses of all the top 10 songs being played on Hot 97 and Power 105. And they got videos out.
Right.
They can sing that word for word because it's melodically, because that's a way of programming, saying stuff. Yo, if I lock you in a room and you don't like country music, but I lock you in a room and play nothing but country music over and over and over, when you get out of that room, you're going to be singing that. You won't have no choice but to sing it. How many times do you hear something on the radio? The last song you hear, you walking all day humming that. Be like, yeah, why is that song in my head? It was one of the last things you heard, either a car passing by or the last thing you heard on the radio before you got out the car. So they know that. The music industry knows that. Even the people that make these videos and these movies, they know that. And that's how they poison our children.
Right.
That has nothing to do with the topic at hand. But since we brought it up, I wanted to throw that out there, though. But this bill is Joe, I know everybody didn't hear about it. I know some of y'all are hearing about it for the first time. So what are y'all gonna do about it? Are y'all gonna contact your legislation, especially since it already passed the House? It has to pass the Senate. Everybody should be on the phone with the letters and phone calls and emails to their congressman. First asking, where do you stand on this? And if they talk about passing this, they need to be telling you why, and you need to be expressing why you don't think this is a good thing to be passed, if that's where you stand. The part about claiming that the Jews were involved in the death of Jesus is only one part of it. There are several other things in expanding this definition. And if you're going to put things into place without the whole claim of Jesus thing, some of the other things in place, and you're going to pass an anti-Semitic awareness act. Why? And Tanya said this when I was on her show at 4 o'clock. Why are you attaching it to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, exactly. which was about the discrimination and racism against Black people in Africans in America specifically?
Exactly.
This shouldn't even be attached. Other than the other part of the civil rights, it says discrimination against no person because of color, race, or all of that. That's already included. So the anti-Semitism things you're talking about, that's already included. But to attach this bill to that takes away from the power of that bill and our ancestors who fought to get those kind of rights. They should be standalone things. They should not be attached. The government like to attach things to things. That should not be attached. So that I have a problem with too. But again, I'm not going to prolong this for so long. I want to hear from Black clergy, all the Black clergy. I want to hear from the clergy period of Westchester County. You could be outside of Westchester. If you see this video, blackwestchester@gmail.com. We want to hear from you. Comments, I want to hear from the people. If you're watching this on LinkedIn or Facebook or YouTube, I want to hear your feedback in the comment section. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe to the Black Westchester page and like these videos and share it if you think this is an important conversation.
We on Instagram. We on Instagram too now.
Okay, and Instagram. So
yeah. Shout out to everybody that's watching on Instagram. Right. You know, share this. Let's talk about it. You could go.
We might be on some other formats that I found out from Tanya. They just expanded it to the formats like Twitch, which I don't have, and a bunch of other formats. So it's like they adding a whole bunch of formats. StreamYard, yeah.
StreamYard is doing their thing. I'm not even mad at StreamYard. StreamYard is definitely.
They need to attach it to Twitter so I can do it from the Twitter page. Like
it is on Twitter.
Oh yeah, okay.
We're live on Twitter on my page. We're live on Twitter.
On your page, okay.
Yeah. We on Twitter. I'm waiting for them to do TikTok. If they get on TikTok, they definitely gonna try to ban TikTok because TikTok is really allowing people, to speak their mind. And I think that's what's the ban about. Like they're really trying to silence dissent. They're trying to silence the voices of the people right here in America. And then they want to talk about they're going over there and fight for democracy overseas when look, y'all can point to Trump all you want. Trump is a distraction. The killing of democracy is happening right now with those that are in office and those Democrats that voted for this bill. And if anybody got the link or know where I could find that list of Democrats that actually voted for this bill, we're going to post it. We're definitely going to post it. These Democrats are anti-faith, anti-freedom of speech, anti-black, and that's what we're going to say. Because if you claim Jesus and you voted for this bill, you Jesus don't know you, and you don't know Jesus. So we just gotta keep it 100, and we just have to voice our opinions. Me and AJ, straight music, we don't get support of people because we tell the truth. We don't get support of politicians because we represent the people. The show is called People Before Politics, we're just talking politics.
And we give you the show free. You don't have to subscribe to that, and you don't have to pay to watch it.
Exactly.
You don't have to pay. You don't have to pay even to read the newspaper. You don't have. There's no paywall on the website. Like this is not a get rich scheme for us. You know what I'm saying? Like, and neither one of us, balling out of control over this right now. This is literally a labor of love and our gift to the community. You know what I'm saying? A voice that needed to be heard, filling a void that was not there. Media from a Black lens. You know what I'm saying? Where we give information to the community that don't normally get that information. Like I said with the Yonkers Town Hall, go to that. Like we give you that information now. What you do with it is up to you. But we giving it to you for free. Our local major newspaper, Low HUD, you can only read a certain amount of articles a month, and then you hit a paywall. And then some of the really good stories, like they did a good story on us, they put that in the subscribe part. If you wasn't a subscription, you couldn't even read it. You know what I'm saying? The New York Times, you got to go to a certain points, and you have to subscribe. We're not doing that, which could generate revenue for us and keep us going. But we want to make sure the information gets to those who can't afford that. You understand what I'm saying? Because the information always doesn't trickle down to them. So share the videos, share what you like what you see, share it with other people who might not know about it. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, subscribe, like, follow, all of that. And, all on the website and the emails and everything, there's a donation button. Feel free to do that because I tell you, what's that song I said last week? One day, and it might not be long, you're going to look for us and we'll be gone. And y'all will be like, what happened to Black Westchester? What happened to them? Why is there not? Oh, we need a Black media voice to do it. We need some Black media. You have it right now, so support it.
Hey, listen.
So we can those who can, so we can continue giving this information free to the people. Right. We can, right. and we don't charge people for interviews. We interviewed a pastor, and I want to say his name. I'm gonna throw him out under the bus today, but he was like, "Yo, do you know if I was to do this with," and he named other media outlets locally, this would have cost me $500-600. We did a one-on-one interview with him because he has some stuff to express. We went to his office and everything. Yo, they're charging people. Other outlets are charging people to even appear. So, you know what I'm saying? If you ain't got the money, you can't get the word out.
And Brenda, yes, yeah, that's a great idea. I'm going to post Republicans and Democrats who voted for the bill. So everybody should know. You know, I said that because I'm particularly worried about these Democrats because Black people, we haven't understand like when you go when you go to a financial advisor, what does he tell you? He said you need to diversify your funds, right? You can't put everything in one account, right? Move your money around, right? We don't do that when it comes to politics. We just stay in the Democrat account. We don't invest in the Republican account. And that's the problem why the party doesn't change, because we don't invest in that. You know, I'm not saying I agree with them stuff, but if you don't have Black people pushing and them relying on Black people to win, they're not going to change, because we once were Republicans. I don't understand how people forgot that. It just took one bill to change the changes over to Democrats. One bill to changes over to Democrats. So we need to diversify. We need a plan of attack, because if we're not going to do that, then guess what? We ain't gonna get nothing. We're not going to get nothing. See, they nervous now because why? Because a lot of people are saying, you know what? I'm going to vote for Kennedy. I'm going to vote for Cornel West. I'm not going to vote for Biden. So the first thing they're going to tell you, well, if you do that, Trump's going to win. So they try to talk you out of making a choice because you have choices. So I think how our understanding of politics as Black people, and then they use radio hosts, they use movie stars, they use all these other people, you know, to get you in a fixed mindset about politics. I don't care what party the person is, as long as they're addressing it's about your interests. Y'all have made it about party. And we haven't changed. People get mad when I say that. We own less land than we did in the 60s.
And that's my plan, because they stole a lot of it. But yeah.
Well, it's not even that. I'm talking about just home ownership. Period. Just home ownership. We own less property now than we did before.
I said, and they stole some of that.
Right. Black farms are not even getting help from the government. We're the only ethnic group of people in the United States that don't have a food chain, that we can track our food from the farm to the table.
And that's by design.
Right. All other ethnic groups can. We can't. And we wonder why we're filled with disease and sickness in the Black communities, because everybody else is selling in the Black community but Black people. And we still following the same political BS on how we deal with politics in our life.
Wait, the way we fight for Black ownership of weed dispensaries, we need to be fighting for Black ownership, Black farmers, Black farms, and all of that. But everybody's involved in fighting for a Black-owned weed dispensary in their neighborhood. Right. Everybody's fighting. I see this fight. This is a big fight all over the place. But nobody fighting for Black farms, that stuff that's healthy, stuff that's economically sound for your community. You know, we don't think about recycling our dollars when it comes to stuff like that. No, we don't. No, we don't. We're about to get out of here. Tomorrow, y'all could go on DamonKJones.com. Y'all could scroll down. I'm doing a 5-day fruit fast. Y'all could join me every night at 9 p.m. where I discuss the fruit fast. I discuss what's going on. I discuss what to eat. And there's links on DamonKJones.com. It's right on the first page. Y'all could click. Y'all could sign up for tomorrow.
we'll be live, but you could definitely sign up because you could get a lot of information. So join me tomorrow. We're gonna do a 5-day fruit fast. 5-day. Drink, eat fruit. Right? We're gonna talk about juicing. Right? We're gonna talk about all that. You know, the importance of juicing and blending. You know, what's the difference? We're gonna talk about all that so we can have a healthy mind, body, and soul, and to move forward. And I'm gonna do it every first week of the month, every first full week of the month. So you know, that helps me stay healthy and it helps you stay healthy, and we build a community around health and wellness.
Also, in closing, Dare to Be Different Westchester, Kobe Jenkins has put together the program Women Who Dare to Be Different for the last 10 years, is doing her official first Men Who Dare to Be Different program June 1st. And Damon and I are being honored. The flyer will be all over the website, all over our social media, so check that. There's also, I was looking up, there is actually an app, and I have it on my phone, I just can't find it right now, where you could actually, once you sign up for the app, it will let you know your legislator in Congress and the House every time they make a vote. It will talk about the bill. It will show you where the bill is, what the pros and cons of the bill are, and how your legislator voted. And then, you know, whether it's just in committee, whether it's passed, whether it got, you know, it lost, but you can track, and you'll just get an alert every time your representative votes, you'll get an alert, and you just click on and you can read. I got to find that app. I was trying to Google it. I can't, but yeah, you just put in your zip code and it'll tell you who your representatives are, and you will follow every vote that they make. If that's what you're into, more of us should be into stuff like that, but I'll find the name and I'll reveal it in a second show. Also, June 5th, the NAACP, the local branches got together and they did a DA forum in Mount Vernon about a week or so ago, and the NAACP branches that are in CD16 are doing a CD16 candidate forum with both candidates, Congressman Bowman and George Latimer, have just confirmed that they will be there. It will be in Greenburgh at the the Theodore Young Center, Community Center, the community center over there in Greenburgh. It'll be there. It's on June 5th, I believe is the date. I'll have a flyer soon and I'll get that out. But the importance of this is the first time these two joint ventures that the local NAACP branches are working together. And that's a powerful move. If they continue to do that, they can get a lot done. So those are the things. Check us out.
I want to post a flyer. What happened to it, man?
I did a shout out to Tanya, and on the Town with Tanya. She supports us. She's had me on her show a few times discussing my books. I was just on there earlier. The video you can watch on my Facebook page, and it'll be on Black Westchester later. So check that out and support her show too. She's doing great work.
So if you want to support us and you want to come out, I'm not sure how much are the tickets. But if you want to support us,
I think they were like $50 or something.
Yeah. If you want to support Black Westchester, come out. And this is the first annual Men Who Dare to Be Different. And
yeah, brother, Lenny Green from WBLS is getting the Atlantic Star Legacy Award. Atlantic Star out of Greenburgh. Shout to them. Yep. Our legislator Tyree Woodson Samuel is also among the honorees, and you'll see all the other names of the honorees on the flyer. So support that. I believe Kobe said we will actually have tickets. So
right. So
we will have physical tickets. If you want tickets, contact us. So you can set up one of our tables and come support us and support this great event. This is the first one she's doing for men. So she's done women for 10 years. Yeah.
She's been doing the women for 10 years and it's been great. So definitely come out. We're gonna have tickets. And we definitely want to support. You know, I'm excited because this is a wonderful thing, and that me and AJ is being recognized as men who dare to be different. You know,
shout out to Kobe. Shout out to Kobe Jenkins.
Yeah,
shout out to Kobe Jenkins and her whole crew. There's a whole team that's involved in that, not just her, but she's the main person. And I just want to applaud her because I know the work it takes out of her to put this together every month. I mean, every year just for the women. And now she just added the men, and she puts her all into it. And I'm thankful that she recognizes us. So and then we are being honored as in the first men's first annual men's one. With that, we out. Unless you got anything else, Damon. This has been Black Westchester Presents the People Before Politics radio show. This is episode 394. Yes, 6 episodes away from our 400th episode, and we're coming up on our 10-year anniversary in the late summer. So you're going to hear some stuff about that, and also look out for the 2025 40 under 40. We'll be kicking that off Juneteenth, and the young brother Paul, who was on earlier, he actually spearheaded that. He's been getting at us for a couple of years because he was discouraged. And see, that I respect that. He was discouraged at Westchester Magazine. Out of their 40, there was only 1 or 2 or 3 black people in there, or persons of color. So Black Westchester is doing a black 40 under 40. There are 40 or more young black people doing the damn thing, and we're going to honor them. So we'll let you know more about that. Nominations for people to be honored kicks off on Juneteenth, so look out for that. Thank you, Brenda L. Crump, our mistress of information, who's still holding us down 10 years later. Every time we talk about something, she posts the link up. You know what I'm saying? We talked about Schoolhouse Rock. She put the link up. So every time she be holding us down. So shout to all of you who've been riding with us for 10 years, yo. 10 years we've been doing this, me and Damon, and y'all been supporting us, and we only here because of y'all. If it wasn't for y'all, we wouldn't still be doing this. Like, it's your support. Absolutely. It's your support that's keeping us going. So hold us down. Keep holding us down. And with that, we out. Peace.
Peace.
22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. Today, and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it.
Yo. Yeah, that was a good show, man. Oh, wait a minute. I got to end the screen.